My biggest advantage coming to Calus is that I have a really approachable personality. A lot of people gravitates towards my energy, and it's so much easier for me to connect with them because they can I'll say sense my attention because by the end of the day, I never have any bad intention. I just want to help. And I feel like that has led me to a lot of different ideas and response in a positive way.
Hey, I'm Corrina.
And I'm Taylor.
And this is Direct, a podcast we created to showcase the creativity and hard work of go-to-market teams everywhere.
We're here to share the stories and experiences of the hardworking, passionate individuals who make up go-to-market teams, the ones who truly make the magic happen.
Taylor and I have been fortunate enough to work side by side on some incredible projects together, and now we want to put a spotlight on the unsung heroes behind some of the best go-to-market campaigns out there.
In each episode, you'll hear from individual contributors who have gone above and beyond to make a difference. They'll share their challenges, victories, and the lessons they've learned along the way, all to help you unlock the next step in your career. Get ready to be inspired, learn something new, maybe even share a laugh or two.
Welcome to Direct. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Direct with Corrina and Taylor. As always, I am just honored to be joined by my amazing co-host, incredibly talented individual, Taylor Young. Hi, Taylor.
Hi, everyone. Thank you. What an introduction today. Hello.
They're going to keep coming. And I can confidently say that Taylor and I are thrilled to be with Danny Luu today, Community and Events Manager at Catalyst. You may also not know that he's actually a boba tea connoisseur, and he actually keeps a diary, and he ranks each boba tea he drinks on a scale of 1 to 5. I have asked for this diary to be made on Instagram. We will see if he fulfills my wishes, because I am also a lover of boba tea, but that can also just be, asking for too much. That's personal. I understand. But he's that guy on LinkedIn. And he is always there to be a positive source of energy for anyone he interacts with. And I have to say, Danny, that whether it's a post or a direct communication, I am always leaving our conversations feeling like I am a human being that deserves to be seen, listened to, and appreciated. And Danny, if that's one freaking mark that you make on this world, which I know you're going to make much more, just thank you for that. So welcome to the show.
Thank you, Corrina. Thank you, Taylor, for having me here.
So Danny, you are now the Community and Events Manager at Catalyst. We like to ask our guests, if you had a magic wand and you could change one thing about maybe your job or maybe the way you go to market, or maybe it's even something in your personal life, what would you do with that magic wand?
Oh, that's a good question. Magic wand, huh?
Yeah,
Maybe
we're Harry Potter fans.
Maybe additional resources, but so the reason why I say resources is because we live in a generation where it's very noisy, and sometimes when we see something online and we feel like it's a good resource, the real question is it a really good resource, or is it just a bunch of junk that we can't really add value into the community? So that's one. I wish there was a authentic spot where a lot of marketers or just anyone in general can go there, and we know that, hey, these are actually legit resources. Let's go ahead and bring it back to this because I feel, to be back to why I said, we live in a noisy world, and sometimes when I see something, dang it, it sounds good, but is it really true, or but yeah, I would say a magic wand that I would have is have a designated resource spot for each marketer to actually learn, and we know that, hey, this is actually legit. That's all I'll say.
All right. So, Danny, we have yet to talk about community on Direct. And it's very nebulous, I think, when we think about community, especially in tech, right? I think people associate it with, is it a community where you ask Q&A questions about the technical aspects of the product? Community is very nebulous, I guess, is my point. So when you were approached by Catalyst to join their team, how do you say, or how would you say they describe community and what community means to Catalyst?
So when I had the opportunity to sign my offer at Catalyst, one of the things that Catalyst does really well as far as defining the community is that they put community in front of the center of the organization. And I know that it sounds very cheesy and maybe a lot of organizations says that too, but for me personally, when I was still a customer of Catalyst, I was actually part of the community. So now I can actually see the inside of the outside, and they actually really put the community in front of the center of everything. For me personally, coaching core is something that holds a really special place in my heart. And my analogy for community is, let's say, for example, if we're in school right now, right? And after school, we all look forward to attending like after school program. For me, my definition is, what kind of after school program can I create that will be safe for others to come learn, network, and overall just have a good time without having any sales pitch? And that's when that we hold ourselves accountable at Cal's, especially for me now that I am in this particular role. Half the time, I don't know what I'm doing, but at the same time, there's always a way for me to find a resolution to really accommodate everyone that's part of the community.
That's such an interesting point that you make, Danny, kind of just about like how to structure it within an organization. I'm curious, can or would you be willing to share where Catalyst structures community? Like as
Yeah.
far as the go-to-market organization?
So at Catalyst, there's going to be two parts of community. One community is run by our scale CSM, where we have a lot of our existing customers on the community. The second community is going to be the coaching corner, where I'm currently running it with our manager and manager. Coaching corner, you're probably kind of curious, like, what is a coaching corner? So for coaching corner, it is we host it two times a year. It's a cohort base where we will pair up hundreds of CS leaders for one-on-one mentorship and coaching. For me personally, last year when I was a customer catalyst, my ultimate goal was to become a CSM in the next like 3 to 6 months. And I joined the community. My coach was super great. She provided me a lot of context, and eventually serendipity hit. And now I'm in the community role, which is like something that I've never expected. But I'm glad that this particular role, I did not force anything. It just kind of fell into my lap. And I've been pretty fortunate to be able to have a lot of leaders who saw a lot of potential in me when I did not really believe in myself, which is something that I'm constantly working on. And I'm sure that I tell you about all the time, secret, but I'm glad that this role fell to my lap because I like being in the center of everything, because I can talk to like our buyers, our customers, and like just understanding, like seeing like their whole customer journey from like start to finish, which is pretty awesome.
Well, I think they're really lucky to have you because I think that shines through in you. You're just a giving person. You're very generous with your time, with your insight, with your knowledge, and I really do think that shines through. So I think Catalyst saw that pretty quickly and realizes that that's not kind of maybe the norm, and they're lucky to have you. Danny, there are so many communities out there, right? For marketers, for sales professionals, communities becoming a big rise. There's the big brands like Pavilion that's been around for eons, right? There's more niche brands. There's more communities that just live in, like if you bought the vendor, then that's the only way you can access the community, right? So, what's your take on like what you would hope to see for the future of community? And you can take it in either lane you want to, either for the role itself, like in how we should really be thinking about it, metrics, defining it, what does good look like? But I would also love your take too. So selfishly, that's two questions on how can people choose? Like, how can people decipher? And I'm wondering if Catalyst and you have come up with like, these are our core operating principles of what community means to Catalyst. And this is how we are measuring as an organization whether or not we're hitting that marks. Because it's very different from, hopefully, it's very different from like revenue marketing.
The way that I see community is, and this is just my personal 2 cents, I feel like the new community manager is like a new term for like another customer marketer. And the reason why I said that is because when you are in the community manager role, you're still talking to your buyers, you're still talking to your existing customers, but at the same time, you're also trying to turn them into advocates. And I feel like advocates are very important for any organization to have because that's going to be another word of mouth for a social posting or like just whenever they're at dinner, they're going to be talking about if you're able to create an awesome experience, no matter what type of program is it, even if they're not a buyer yet, they're consistently going to be talking about your company all the time, especially when you see those unexpected LinkedIn posts. That's gonna be like another, they're gonna continue to share and other people are gonna share. But that's definitely what I see the community role so far. As far as Matrix, this is something that I was telling my friend about too. He was like, "Oh yeah, why did you leave your SDR role to get into community manager? You're not selling." But I'm like, technically, the community manager role, you're still selling value. You're still talking to other departments within the organization. And the biggest pillar for this is understanding what the community wants. One of the things that I've been doing personally is reaching out to our target ICPs one-on-one directly instead of sending like a mass message for me to really get to know like what's important to them. Like, what can I do to turn this feedback into content with our product marketing team or run it by our leadership team to kind of figure out like, do we need to create like another virtual event and have like the right speaker for them to really convert into an opportunity? So that's one thing that I really try to focus on the last couple of months is being more personalized, even like a short, like 1 or 2 minute, like message on Slack or like on LinkedIn, like just really understanding, hey, these are our target accounts. Let's go ahead and message them and see if they're willing to talk. Because by the day, I'm not selling anything. I'm just understanding, hey, what's important to you and how can I help?
Absolutely. And so you mentioned a little bit about, this coaching corner, these two communities both existed before you came in, but obviously the team at Catalyst saw what you were doing with community and wanted to bring you in. So what are some of the biggest changes? It sounds like a little bit more personalized, a little bit more one-on-one. What are the biggest changes that you've made or biggest areas of focus you've had since coming in and taking this on? And what have you seen from that?
Yeah, so I'm pretty fortunate enough to be able to, and I'm going to be selfish here. I feel like I have a really approachable personality where a lot of people gravitates toward me. I've
Mhm.
had spoke with other community managers where like, I feel like when you are in this role, if you have like a hard personality where like it's hard to gravitate towards you, it's going to be a little hard for you to really get what you want as far as like how can you help them. So I'll say my biggest advantage coming to Calus is that I have a really approachable personality. A lot of people gravitates towards my energy and so much easier for me to connect with them because they can like, I'll say sense my attention because by the end of the day, I never have any bad attention. I just want to help. And I feel like that has led me to a lot of different ideas and response in a positive way.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that you've even in this conversation so far, we're maybe 10 minutes into this call and everything that you've said about community so far has been so centered. There wasn't even a second that it's not centered on helping people. It's not about selling people. It's not about convincing them to post. It's about how much help can you provide and that's just oozing from your personality, from everything that you've said so far.
Thank you.
If I could, Danny, I feel like that comes from somewhere deep within you. This idea of helping others and just constantly providing value. Like I'm picking up on a sense that this isn't like a core principle that an organization taught you. I feel like this is like something that you've experienced in your own lived experience, and it's now just it's synonymous with who you are. And I think that we don't do that enough, right? Like, we don't value our own strengths outside of work enough. And I'm wondering if you feel comfortable to share with us, like, when you decided that this is my onlyness, this is my uniqueness, this is who Danny is, and I should be able to bring that to the business.
I'm happy to share that. And I was actually just texting one of my close friends that I'm having lunch with this Friday too. So he was kind of curious, like how have I been doing in this role? But I'm definitely very, very vocal about it. I'm happy to share it. And yeah, it's been pretty personal to me, but it's probably why the reason why I do certain things the way I do today. But happy to share it for sure.
I'd love for you to go there if you're comfortable. Only if you're comfortable.
Yeah.
I really do believe that there's some things that just can't be taught. There's some things that are lived. And I think that that's going to that's going to make you just keep being more and more and more successful. And I want to encourage our younger generation to be confident with those. And so say however you want to say it. Like, it doesn't have to be nitty gritty detail. Just like when you found that, like, hey, you know what? I kind of want to bring this to the business world. And I mean, because you do, like, even though it's a little super, the taco thing you did, like, you can talk about that, right. So, like,
Yeah.
even stuff like that, but it's consistent. You are consistently showing, like, I care about you, I care about the universe, I want to leave the universe in a better place. You don't have to say why, but you can just say, like, I had a really personal experience and I came to this realization that I realized I could actually bring my whole self to work in a way that's going to give me money so that I can eat, drink, live, provide, etc. So that's more where I'd rather you to go if you feel comfortable.
So one of the reasons why I enjoy helping others the way that I do today, one of the first pillars is that the way that I grew up. So my mom were two cats. My parents got divorced when I was young, and pretty much my grandparents took care of me, and they're still alive, which I'm still very fortunate to be able to still spend a lot of time with them. But there's two traits that I've learned from both my mom and grandma is continue to do the right thing. Good things will happen to you. And let me tell you this, Corrina, Taylor, and like the whole audience that's listening. If you were to look from like the outside, oh yeah, this guy's super positive, but I used to actually be really negative, like super negative. What changed for me was after I got laid off in 2020 for my first SDR job, I thought that my actual close friends was actually there. Were going to be there for me, but in the end, it was my family, which is my mom, grandma, and my entire family. They were there to support me when I was at my lowest. And at that time, I was beating myself up every single day, super negative, until I land a new job again and start like really understanding, hey, what do I really enjoy doing the most? And how do I really improve personality to get better professionally and personally too? So those are the two traits that I've learned from my grandma and mom. Continue to do the right thing and good things will happen to you. And for me, my entire family is Buddhist. So I always believe that karma is real. Like what grows around comes around. Like the more that if I continue to put out negative energy, I'm going to get a lot of negative energy back. And I don't want that because life is already hard. We have a lot of personal stuff going on. And now if you were add on top of that, I don't want like the tiniest things to ruin my day when I know there's other stuff that I can focus on. So that's definitely going to be the reason why I enjoy what I'm doing right now and why I'm constantly trying to help others whenever I can. And when this role came to me, I was like, okay, this is perfect because I still get to sell, but it's like a different type of selling, which is pretty unique.
Absolutely. And I appreciate you sharing that with us and our listeners because it's just so relevant to what so many people are going through right now with even more layoffs that you're seeing all of the time and just how you take that and understand that it's not a personal flaw. There's so many people that I think are freaking rock stars right now that I'm just like I can't believe this has happened. So the ability to take that and not sit in it and dwell in it, but use it to move forward and find the best parts of yourselves. And also what you did is just a testament to community as well, is lean in on the people who are there to help you. And actually what's incredible is building spaces where other people can help each other. Like I know right now on LinkedIn, so many people are saying like, "Hey, check my network. If I can make an introduction." I've made a dozen introductions in the last couple weeks for people, but it's all just about wanting to be there and wanting to help. So, long way of saying, I really love that you shared that story and appreciate that you not only took the help that was available to you, but created spaces for other people, right? Because it doesn't necessarily have to be just these vendor communities where people are doing Q&As. These are real spaces that you're creating to make connections with people. So, I wanted to ask, how are you very intentionally, I know the coaching program is like connecting mentors and mentees, and you're putting a lot of energy into matching the right people for that. So can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. So the coaching corner program is very unique to Callus because I don't know. Imagine this. Let's say, for example, if you are a marketer, right? And like you're still fairly brand new to the role. Imagine if there was like a program where like, oh, Corrina or Taylor once is currently a marketing manager and they want to become like a director in the next 3 years. So pretty much the way that we pair the coaches and mentees, it's very meticulous, but at the same time, we put in a lot of time and energy. So pretty much for each cohort before they even get accepted, we're gonna ask them like a few questions. I have some of the questions pull up right now. Like for players, we ask them like a really like one silly question. What is your superpowers? Like where what do you really like feel like you're good at? And then another question that we could be asked is, where do you see yourself in the next 3 to 6 months? So we take a lot of the questions that they ask. I mean, they respond back, and we will look for different coaches that really matches them, just to make sure that hey, is Danny gonna be a good fit with Karina if Karina wants to be a mentor, vice versa, Taylor. So we look into a lot of those, and at the same time, we also look at seniority because let's say if you are a director, and I'm not gonna pair a director with like another director because they're pretty much very similar roles. But let's say if I'm like an individual contributor, less than a year of being a CSM, I'm gonna find someone that's very compatible to the coach. So that way the coach can really help them elevate in the career. And that could also create another new relationship that would have even been possible without the pairing.
I love the superpower question. That is just brilliant. And I'm curious, I don't want to go off on a tangent here, but do you power people? Do you connect people that have different superpowers, maybe strengths where other people have weaknesses, or do you put people together that are very similar when you're looking at those?
The superpower question is just a little fun question to kind of see how what type of response we get. But one of the things that I strictly focus on is the areas of what are they trying to get out of the program. So let's say for me, if I want to become a director in the next 6 months, I'm going to look for someone who was an IC and became a director within 6 months to a year. But that question was just very a fun question to kind of get everyone like hyped up for the program. But we look for the areas. What would they like to get coached on? And then what subjects are they interested in? And the last thing, this is going to be very important for us, is that I make sure that we don't pair up a company that's a competitor of theirs because it's going to cause a lot of conflict. So like there's like a
Yeah.
lot of like stuff that we look into, but we always make sure that we pair up the right coach and mentees together.
Yeah. And I ask because it's brings me back to a personal story, but being able to pair with people that are both like-minded and have different strengths with you is so important, especially in people's careers. It was serendipity that Karina and I met, and then we are working together now for so long. What you probably don't know, Danny, and you'll laugh, is the company that we started working with together would do these personality tests prior to being hired, and they'd use that kind of in the hiring process. Some places that's pretty standard. I believe, and Corrina, you can correct me if I'm wrong because you were on this side of it, but Corrina and I scored the same in the personality test. And this company kind of swore these personality tests like hand on the Bible. They were like, this is the end all be all of whether you should work here or not. Corrina and I were both considered maverick on the personality test, and HR told her not to hire me because we would butt heads so much because we were both mavericks. And thank God Corrina, you pushed back against that so that we could work together.
Yeah,
Thanks for
what are your thoughts on that, Danny? Because I was so surprised. Like I understand, like, I love Myers-Briggs, right? I I love personality tests, but I think it's an odd concept when you're I see so much more in Taylor than just her maverick profile. You know what I mean? Like I see Taylor's ambition. I see Taylor's intuition. I see Taylor's strengths. I see where Taylor wants to be in a few years, which is one of the things that you have on your coaching program. So, do you find that you guys are kind of challenging conventional norms when it comes to coaching? Because I think a lot of the coaching programs, because they use them, right? Like they use these not just to hire people, but then they also use it to basically be like, you see, we told you not to hire another maverick. Only one maverick can be on a team. So this is why maybe you're experiencing this revenue problem. And it's like, well, there's so much more factors at play. So do you see do you see Catalyst as taking more of a holistic approach to what it means to determine the characteristics of a person, what makes up a person, and or do you see it are you guys trying to lean away from the hard and fast, this is the way up the corporate ladder, et cetera, et cetera?
the way that I see it, especially with what's been going on in the tech world, is a lot of companies are not hiring as much as they want to, just because maybe it could be budget or not enough headcount. But for me, what I've been noticing is that companies are starting to be more picky on who they hire. Like for example, for Callis, right? I started this past March. We've only hired at least 4 people since March, but at the same time, it's people that actually, and this might sound super cheesy, but they believe in the company's vision, but at the same time, leaders actually see a lot of potential in them and give them a shot, which is something that's been so important for myself and maybe someone else that's listening. We don't know what the future holds, but at the same time, if you have a manager or a leader that took a shot at you, use that, say yes now, and then figure out later. Like for me, when I came into Cal's, I had no idea what the hell am I going to be doing. And still today, I don't know what I'm doing. The reason why I said yes is because it scares me. I know that when things are when I'm scared of something, I know that it's gonna lead to a lot of growth. And I've never really managed an actual community before. So, and that's one model that I have been consistently trying to remind myself ever since this year started. Say yes to things that gives me a lot of energy that scares me, and eventually I'll figure it out.
So, Danny, with the environment that we're in right now, like you were saying, leaning in on your network, leaning in on communities like the one that you've created at Catalyst can be such a huge change maker. But Catalyst has obviously leaned really far into community even before you got there and sees the value of it. So, what kind of advice would you give for teams that have not leaned into community yet, but maybe there's an individual there that knows that it would be super impactful? Maybe it's somebody listening to this podcast that says, wow, community is really important.
Like, for example, for me, last year, and I'm not even trying to exaggerate, I was probably in 6 or 7 communities, which is very overwhelming. And now I only have 3 communities I'm on, and I try to be as active as I can, just because we live in a noisy world. The more that you join different communities, it can be overwhelming. You're going to be seeing new values. So like I would say take your time to do some research on what communities do you feel like can bring you value. Then just keep that community and consistently be on it and ask questions. And eventually you will find something that will gravitate towards your interests. Some people could be in a community looking for a new job. Some people could be in the community trying to elevate in their current career, because if you ask advice to one of your current colleagues in the same organization, sometimes it's always nice to kind of get a different type of lens from another person who's done it before. And that's one thing that I try to do, because communities are great, but it's always nice to be able to hear from someone else who's in a different community, because then their lens of eyes, or like their lens is completely different from what you will hear from like your colleagues. And you'd be surprised like what you can like mash those two together to like even create like a better program or community, something that you can implement in your current organization. But that's the way that I see it.
So, Danny, I mean, it's a fantastic point. I mean, I think there's countless communities out there for B2B. What for you do you like? How did you dissect that down to be from like six or more communities that you were a part of? Like, what were the things that you were looking for in the communities? What are those maybe Danny operating principles for a community that are a must have to in order for you to join and engage in that community?
So one of the questions that I like to ask myself is, what am I trying to do in the next 6 months to a year? For me, the whole community slash customer marketing role has opened my eyes a lot. I didn't even know that this world even existed. So that's one question that I like to ask myself. Where do I see myself in the next 6 months to a year? Who's actually in the community is going to be the second one. If I'm in a community and all I'm hearing is getting, or if I'm in a community and all I'm getting is bombarded by a bunch of salespeople, I'm gonna leave and see from like 0 to 100, whatever, from that one time that Drake said. So that's gonna be the second one. And I'm also going to figure out how active is it. Is there anyone like adding like value that can help me level up in my career? Those are the three questions that I typically look or ask for in a community. So that's the reason why I was able to reduce the amount of community that I was in, because I could be in the sales community, but I'm not in sales anymore. So like it's A's and SRs to be talking, but it's not relevant to me. So I try to narrow everything down that makes sense on how can this community help me and how can I help back in the next 6 months to a year. So that's the way that I try to narrow everything down.
Yeah, that's such fantastic advice for people. And I know when you flip that on its head as the community manager, knowing that that's how you feel about communities that you participate in, how do you ensure that your community that you are in charge of stays active, stays really relevant, isn't salesy or pushy? Like, how do you do that?
So there's one thing that I've learned over the last 6 months. When you are in the community manager role, you don't run the community by yourself. You have to lean on your external partners, marketing, CS, sales, because in order for you to continue to provide additional resource that can help create like a better buying experience for your buyers or just your existing customers, I don't know half the time how to find all those resources, but I know who to go to get those resources. So it's that way I can share it with the community. That way they can feel, yeah, like they understand like what I need, what I want. But in the beginning, I thought that you have to when you're in this role, you have to do everything by yourself. I was completely wrong. You have to leverage your team, because by the end of the day, this is still like a team sport. I'm just in like a department that does community, but I still have to talk to other external partners to really understand, hey, what is the best way for us to add the community? Should we host like a workshop event? Should we provide more context or more resources for the community to engage with us? It's not a one man sport. It's the
I
whole team
love
sport.
that. I love that philosophy because it can't just be you in there trying to activate. This is very much about helping people and collecting resources and hearing from different voices that all build a really active and engaged and helpful community like you've been talking about. And speaking of, I know right at the top of this call, Corrina had asked about this magic wand. And the magic wand, you had such a fantastic answer because I think it's something that we all really crave is this place where we can go and find resources that are actually valuable and actually relevant to each of our roles and what we're trying to achieve at the time. And so thinking back to this magic wand, I heard so many things, but I'll start with what you think here. What inside of from the conversation that we've had today and the thoughts we've talked about with Corrina, what inside of you and within your power now do you think is maybe solving for that problem? Do you have that magic wand already inside of you that's allowing to create these spaces where people are only getting the best and most relevant resources?
I don't know if this is going to be a superpower, but for me, I try to be as organized as possible. And I'm grateful that I was once an SDR. A lot of people don't realize how critical being an SDR is because if there's one takeaway that I've learned being an SDR that I still implement today is always document everything, whether it was bad. Whenever I do something good, I'm always gonna document it. But whenever I do something good or bad for Arista, like I'm gonna document to kind of see what worked or not. I'm gonna continue to pull it up, and eventually, that's going to be like my resource of like, library resource for me to know. Oh yeah, this is what I did last year. How do I do something similar but make it better and add like a new twist for this year? So just having to be able to document everything is super important because you can kind of see like I think for us human beings, we're consistently growing and learning every single day, right? Like the things that we thought last year and now when we look at it, it's like, that's actually pretty different. Like the way that we see this is so much different now, but pretty much document everything. And that's one thing that I'm super grateful for being an SDR because if I was never an SDR, I would not document everything today still.
Yeah, I think that's so powerful in what you were saying with like a lot of community and a lot of even these marketing activities where you're saying it's kind of a conjunction between customer marketing and community is these are long-term plays that don't pay out like, okay, they clicked this button and so here's the attribution to this activity. When you're taking the notes like you're talking about, you can see in the long run how it's helped build the community and being able to reference those back. I think a lot of what I was thinking about is, when you were talking about resources, of course you could go on LinkedIn, which is so noisy now and sometimes you have a lot of the same perspective or you might get a different perspective, but it's edgy just to be edgy and catch attention. It's not really there's not much there. And I think that or even just going on Google and trying to find resources, what you're finding on the top 10 is whatever's got the best SEO. It doesn't necessarily mean it's the most valuable. And so what you've created with these communities and these hubs of people who have been there and done that, it's really the goal of what we've tried to do with our podcast as well, is this area where it's no bullshit. Excuse my French, of people who've really done the work and have seen the success and they're able to speak to and help others with it, as opposed to, whatever's ranking the highest in SEO. So I just want to take a second and say, like, you are your own magic wand, so to speak, because you're creating these places where people can go and find these resources in people and in, content. But I mean, in people, that's so valuable.
And one thing I also even like to add too, it's okay for you to not know something. And I think for me, that was my biggest blocker. Like a few years ago, I thought that I need to know everything for me to act smart or look smart. But in reality, that's only gonna cause to have more issues down the road. So now whenever I don't know something, I'm gonna admit to myself, hey, I don't know this, but let me go ahead and figure out how do I find out the answer or like I'll leverage all the resources that I have. But the more that I'm honest with myself, and this is for a listener, it's okay for you to not know everything because we live in a very fast world where a lot of things are consistently changing. And that's okay because we work for startups or like you can be at any company, but things are moving so fast. It's okay for you not to know everything, but always find a way to get the answer and you don't need to know the answer right away. That's one thing that I like to add.
I
I
appreciate that
appreciate
so
that.
much. Oh, sorry, jinx to Corrina.
Yeah, I love that we jinxed that. I think that speaks to we appreciate that. Taylor appreciates
Yeah.
that so much. That's going to really resonate, Danny. And that really came from the heart. And nobody knows everything. And you just provided people like an opportunity to give themselves grace. And thank you for that.
Of course.
Well, thank you so much also for participating on our podcast. I know this is going to be so helpful for so many people. So, once again, just being such an incredible giver. And we appreciate your time to come on and talk about this. And we, like Corrina said at the top, we haven't had anyone come and talk about community yet. So, this has been so cool and just a great time with you, Danny. Thank you.
Thank you both for having me on. I know that we're overdue, but I appreciate you too. It's been fun.
We appreciate you and surround yourself with tacos, not negativity.
Yes.
Or,
Motto that we
yes.
want to live by.
Thank you, Danny. We appreciate you. Thanks for listening to this episode of Direct with Corrina and Taylor.
If you enjoyed what you heard in today's episode, please give us a follow, maybe even a 5-star review, wherever you listen to your podcast.
And if you know someone that you'd like to spotlight, if you want to share your own story, visit us at motionagency.io/direct. We'd love to hear from you.